Now for something completely different. Got a Korg X3 music workstation keyboard here, and the owner says the jack is loose, and it is. So I got that's probably a broken solder joint. Let's see, it's cutting out now. But that's not the only issue that I've encountered. I have it on this patch because it's really easy to hear, and we'll see if this problem's on other patches. I don't know whether it's a momentary program change being sent incorrectly somewhere, a loose ribbon cable. Anyway, but check this out. You hear that little organ stab that was in there? I think it's running out of polyphony. That should not be happening on a bass patch. It's not a dual map keyboard. It's not a split. It's like it's a polyphony thing. Or velocities are triggering it. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's doing it on other patches. Let's see what some other patches sound like. That's not bass and vibes. Someone has reprogrammed the sounds in this but kept the default name. So bass and vibes is an organ. It's louder than the bass. Let me turn it down a little bit. Anyway, let's super percussion. Not getting that polyphony issue. So I wonder if it's just that bass patch is acting up. Maybe something's wrong in the processing. So it's not a polyphony issue with the keyboard as a whole, but it's weird. Now I'm just having fun with it before I have to open it up and resolder things. Spaceport. Well, I've tried a bunch of other patches and I can only get that bass to mess up. All the others seem okay. Though I gotta say, if I owned this keyboard, I'd be reprogramming everything. Not a huge fan of the stock stuff, but let me open this up and see about fixing that jack and checking all the ribbon cable connections, and let's see if I can fix this thing. Taking the board out that has the jacks on it. So it has those two screws there. There's a Molex connector here, connector here. And then I remove the screws on the rear. Important not to get your screws mixed up when doing this. And I believe the MIDI stuff's on the same board. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, as expected, right here, a very broken solder joint, semi-broken solder joint. This is lead-free stuff. It's not the best. I'm going to remove the majority of it so I can get some real solder in there. I'm going to do all of these jacks at the same time, because if this one broke on the left mono, the one for the right is also wanting to break. And I'll check any other solder joints I see. Go through and look at all the other connections throughout the keyboard just to see why that one bass patch is triggering weird. It may be something in its programming is a little bit off. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but it struck me as an oddity. All right. Add a little bit of solder to the old stuff to remind it that it's solder and wants to flow. 2 on each and leave the ground alone so the jack won't move around. Now I'm going to here get the majority of that stuff out. I just added that fresh solder to add some flux to the old stuff. So it should wick right out. There it all goes. It's got enough solder in here that I probably want to use the sucker and save my braid a little bit. Let the braid get the fine detail stuff. Let the solder sucker do the heavy lifting. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it's better. Now I'll just get in here with the braid right under where the solder sucker doesn't want to do its best work. The flux and little bits of solder that are flying around on the board, I will clean up in just a moment. All right, so we do the grounds on those and on these. Big thanks to Wayne Roberts for sending me these cool dispensers for isopropyl alcohol. I've learned not to squeeze them, at least while not pointing at myself, because it will squirt right out if you squeeze it. But I can use a little bit of this to get that flux off that board. You can see a bunch of brand new shiny solder joints. That's good, but I left a lot of flux on the board. That's not so good. So I get in here and remove it. Still trying to get the hang of this new dispenser. It wants to let all the ISO out in a huge squirt, but I will have control over it soon. That's good. Put all this back together. Well, I've done all that, and the jack is no longer cutting out. And I still had that weird organ coming in on this bass patch. I went into the preset itself. I figured out how to get into the editing window. And this thing uses 5 different voices that you can have. 2 of those voices are very hard panned organs, which I'm not hearing the hard panning because I'm just using it in mono. And I'm not sure what the trigger for it is, but that's not my keyboard, not my concern. All I need to know is there's not a false triggering within the electronics, the physical stuff. That's my concern. So I'm gonna call this one just about done. I gotta put it back together. That was a letdown. I'll stop here.